Hello and welcome to episode 2 of This is a Basketball Show. Bit of a name change we had in between weeks. I'm Ben Chadwick, joined by Jaden Hunter with the spinning jerseys in the air, Giacomo Imperiali, and Matt Freeman. And guys, we're through the first week of the NBA, so I figured we got a couple of overreactions, some week one takeaways. So why don't we start with those week one takeaways? Jock, I'll throw it to you first.
All right. I just wanted to start off the segment. I want to talk about a couple of key things I've seen throughout the first week of the NBA. First thing I want to talk about, I'll just throw the conversation out there and we can see what we all feel about. I want to talk about the Utah Jazz, and I just want to see what your guys' opinions on. Obviously, a very hot start, 3-1 start, beating the Nuggets, the Timberwolves in Minnesota, and the New Orleans Pelicans, who I feel like as a group we were all very high on. Two of those were blowout wins, and one of them was a very close fourth quarter win. And really my thing behind the Jazz and why they're good, and I would give you the reason for that, is that because they don't have a star. Like, they don't have a traditional modern day NBA star. They just have a bunch of guys that can score 20 points on any given night. They spread the ball well, and they're just able to beat these big teams just because of their teamwork. They play good defense and they have good chemistry. But I want to hear what you guys have to think about this.
Yeah, Matt, why don't you start?
Yeah, so I guess I'll give them props for being 3-1, but I, I think it's kind of just a little consolation prize for them at this point. Their front office clearly is beginning a rebuild and beginning to tank for top guys in this next draft like Scooter Victor. And they just you can't tell me that they're going to be any sort of force in the playoffs. I don't think they'll be even close to making the playoffs. Period. But I mean, yeah, I guess it's a bit of a surprising start for them. Good for the Utah Jazz, but I mean, I'm not batting an eyelash until I see it
Yeah,
down the line.
I agree with that. I don't think that they're going to be anywhere near a playoff team, but I just think that they're going to be a bit better this season than a lot of people think that they were going to be.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's a bit of it's an unconventional hot start for them. Obviously, I think we all agree they're not going to keep this up throughout the rest of the season. But something it also shows us, guys, is the head coaching and the front office in Utah is elite. It is incredible. I mean, you can make the argument, yeah, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, those guys are great pieces, but they utilized everyone on those teams the past couple of years. They didn't have too much success in the playoffs, but they were always a top 1, 2 seed, and now they have no stars. I mean, who's their best player? Like Colin Sexton, Malik Beasley,
Colin
like
Sexton, Laurie Markin, and Rudy Gay is really like their guys.
and if they're actually if they could potentially make a playoff push with that, I'm not giving any credit to those players if I'm being honest. This coaching staff is unreal. Jaden.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with all of you guys. I mean, Utah does not have a clear star. I mean, Jordan Clarkson, he has been playing great. I mean, he's averaging 18.5 points per game, 4 blocks per game, and even 5 assists per game. Honestly, that's great. And that's not even their top guy. To me, I think their top guy would be Laurie Markkinen. Laurie Markkinen, he's averaging a little more points per game, a little more rebounds. But to go against Jock real quick, I know you said that Utah can be a top team and maybe make it to the playoffs, but you're having Laurie Markkinen as your top guy and getting a lot of points per game. But he's very injury prone, as we saw when he was at the Bulls. Do you have any thoughts like what's going to happen if he does get hurt?
What was up? Sorry, I missed it.
I'll actually answer your question, Jay. I mean, I think in a way it makes things a little bit easier for the Jazz organization. I mean, it's clear that in this day and age, you're either contending or you're not. You're either trying to win an NBA title, you're trying to develop talent, or you're trying to get new talent. I think the Utah Jazz, actually, I know they're in the process of trying to flush out, all the players from their current system and get that new young talent into Utah. So I think if Laurie Markkinen goes down, that would suck. He's a good young player, and he could be not a centerpiece, but a very good piece on the Utah Jazz team in the future. But I mean, just kind of helps them lose games a little bit more than they were expecting. So gives them a better chance to jumpstart the rebuild to their franchise.
Yeah, and guys, I mean, they acquired so many picks that, I mean, if they keep this coaching staff, which looks, like I said to be before, an incredible coaching staff, they could be a powerhouse in 5, 6 years. I mean, they got all these picks. They got these elite coaches. That's like a perfect recipe for success in my book.
I mean, you look at the Memphis Grizzlies front office. Obviously, they did a very good job drafting, around the potential superstar with Dylan Brooks, Desmond Bane. Those are some of the best support guys that you could possibly find from the second round. But then you insert the guy that jump-started their franchise, Ja Morant. He's playing, he it was clear that he was a superstar in the making, several years ago when he came out of Murray State. But to see how he has progressed throughout, last year and then even in the beginning of this year, he's my week 1 MVP, and it's really not even close. Grizzlies are 3-1. The biggest surprise to me that a lot of people should be taking note of, Ja Morant is shooting 60% from three-point range, and I understand it's only been 4 games for the Grizzlies, but he's shooting a pretty hefty sample size in each of those games. So if he can have that three-point shot as a weapon, I mean, I don't know how you could possibly guard Ja. I think he's the MVP. I mean, he's carrying his team in the first couple of games. Desmond Bane had an amazing performance last night. But, I mean, I don't see how you could pick anyone else for the week 1 MVP.
Yeah, guys, any thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, listen, game 1, opening night, I saw Ja Morant cook the Knicks. I mean, obviously I know how good Ja Morant is, but I saw him shoot the 3 ball like he's never shot the ball before. He was shooting so efficiently. He had better looks. He was scoring off the dribble. And that's the type of progression you want that superstar in Ja Morant to make. I mean, he looked like he had no flaws in his game, and that's how he's looked. He obviously had that big 40-point performance the other day. I mean, I completely agree. He is 100% the week 1 MVP throughout the season.
Jaden?
I can agree with you guys a little bit. I mean, Ja Morant, he's looking great this year. As we saw last year, came down with the injury a little bit. It's also great to see him being able to develop a better three-point shot, because I know I was saying last week how I don't want him to fall under and be the next Derrick Rose. I mean, he had the okay three-point shot, but now coming into this season, shooting 60% from 3, I think it's amazing to see him develop that three-point shot, so he's not always constantly going into the paint and risking getting the injury. But week 1, I got to go to Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard, 33.2 points per game. I mean, shooting 65 from the field and with a 40% three-point shot. I think he has to be the MVP for that this week. He doesn't really have that many pieces in Portland, and he just turned the team into great. I mean, they're 4-0 already.
Yeah, and Jane, we're gonna get to your overreaction, which is very similar in a little bit. So, guys, any more week 1 takeaways you want to throw out there?
Yeah, I just want to throw one more out there before we move on to our overreactions. I just want to talk about my most improved player pick when we did it last week. The name of Tyrese Halliburton. This guy is a superstar in the making. I just want to read out his numbers throughout the first 4 games. He's averaging 24.5 points per game, 10 assists a game. He's shooting 45% from 3 and 53% overall. I just want to hear how you guys think that his game is going to progress over the next 2 years, because in my opinion, I think that this guy could be a top 20 player in the league in 2 or 3 years, because he's just putting on a clinic whenever he's playing any team.
I don't think that's very far-fetched at all. But to be honest with you, I think that he is in the best possible situation to develop as a player. I mean, like I said in the last episode, he is being put in a dumpster fire organization right now. And he just kind of gets to play around and work on his own game. I mean, he's going to be the centerpiece of their rebuild. And obviously, they have really no championship aspirations this year. They're going to be looking for an impact player in the draft. But just to give him the ball and let him try to carry a team, throughout this year, it's going to do wonders for his development. And yeah, I agree. I mean, Halliburton has shown every bit of a flash to become the next superstar, to become a top 20, top 25 player in the league in the next couple of years. But I mean, they're 1-3, so I understand you can't win with some very, very, very subpar surrounding pieces. But I just don't see Tyrese Halliburton really getting to shine this year. Give him a couple years, and I think that's when he'll really break out and emerge as a superstar.
I agree.
Yeah, Matt, I couldn't agree more, because you got Halliburton in Indiana. Like you said, there's no other pieces there. So he's kind of forced to carry that team at a young age. So for his development, that's going to do incredible things. And something else I wanted to point out, he's got He's averaging about 10 assists right now. And guys, can we even think of some offensive pieces on Indiana right now that could be helping him out with that? I don't think I can.
No one. The only other, again, I talked about, like, obviously when I said my Pacers were a sleeper team, which I'm already kind of regretting a little bit.
Mhm.
But the only big names I can name off the top of my head on this Indiana Pacers roster would be guys like Miles Turner and maybe the rookie. Probably be the only two guys that could contribute to any kind of success.
I mean, Benedict Mathurin has had a hot start, but to be honest with you, you can't even include those two as big names. Miles Turner,
They're role players.
Defensive, great young defensive player. I mean, I would love him on my team. I would love him on the Grizzlies, to be honest with you. But I mean, you can't even. You said big name players. You're throwing out guys that are
mid tier. Yeah, he doesn't have another big name player on his team. He is their guy.
That's what I think. He's going to be amazing for his development. He kind of just gets to freestyle a little bit.
Yeah,
Jock, real quick, Jaden. Jock, something I wanted to ask you. Any thoughts on that Pistons game that Halliburton had? I mean, 24 points, 7 for 16 shooting, 4 rebounds, 10 assists, and 5 steals. I mean, I don't know if you watch it, but do you know what happened there in Indiana against Detroit?
I'll tell you what the Pacers' game plan was that game. You pass Tyrese Halliburton the ball and you let him score. It's that simple, and that's going to be their recipe for success throughout this season. They run a lot of I've watched a couple Pacers games this year because I want to see how this guy plays. They run a lot of heavy pick and roll offense at the top of the key with Miles Turner as a lob threat to the basket. But most of the time, Tyrese Halliburton just takes the ball back and looks for an open three, and he hits it a lot of the time. Again, I said shooting very efficiently, 45% from three. He's just turning into a great player, and that's simply how it is. He's just progressing so much in this great. He's so many ways he can make great strides this year.
Yeah, and those 5 steals he had too are that's an unreal stat line to have 5 steals in one game. Jaden, any thoughts?
Yeah. Honestly, in my opinion, for Tyrese Halliburton, I know how we are just talking about the Memphis Grizzlies and their front office. If I'm the Indiana Pacers front office, I'm working the draft, trying to get people around Tyrese Halliburton, as we saw with John Morant bringing in a superstar, and then in the drafts bringing in other key players to go around him. I think that the Indiana Pacers can do that and turn Tyrese Halliburton obviously into a star. I think in the future he has a huge amount of success coming up. Just this year, I can't really see like anything for him to like pass to or any. Honestly, like he's going to be good this year, obviously, but then in the upcoming years, he's obviously going to get even way better if the Indiana Pacers can get other people around him. That's how I feel.
Yeah, and we know that like he is a scorer. I mean, he's dropping 26, 27, 24, but those assist numbers, the 10, 10, 12, that's where I think he really shines. So getting us some pieces, whether it be in the draft, whether it be some young guys in free agency to build around him. And we could see a Pacers team, not this year, Jock. They're not a sleeper team this year, but like in the future, maybe give it 3 or 4 years, this Pacers team could really be something to look out for. With that, guys, I think I want to get into the overreactions. So, Jaden, you're up first. What do you have for us after week 1?
After week 1, my early prediction is that Damian Lillard is going to win the MVP. He's bringing a team that not a lot of people thought would be great going into the season. I mean, he's averaging 33.2 points per game, 5.6 rebounds, and 5.3 assists, 65 from the field, and he's averaging he has 40% from 3-point land. Honestly, I think that's great going in through week 1, and he's in a tough conference, the Western Conference, so he's going to be going up against some of the top teams like the Suns, the Warriors, the Mavericks. He's going up against some big teams, and Dame is just shining right now, 4-0, and personally, I think he's going to win the MVP this year. That's my early predictions.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't hate it necessarily, but it would take an absolute superhuman year from Damian Lillard. You got to understand. I mean, you've seen Nikola Jokic and the level that he's been playing on the past few years. I mean, back-to-back MVP is just unreal. The Nuggets haven't been really a powerhouse, but they've been good enough to where Jokic can get the nod for the MVP award. Like the Blazers, I'm giving 7 to 8 teams. They're a play-in team. I would say that would be my guess. They're a playing team or a low end 7, 8 seed. I don't see them having much success this year because they have no one around him. I mean, the Trailblazers front office, quite frankly, has done a poor job of supporting Damian Lillard, a guy who was so loyal to the city of Portland, to the Trailblazers fan base. It's not a fault of Damian Lillard. I just don't think he has the pieces around him to win games, and I just think it'll be a very one-dimensional offense, which will not lead to success, down the line throughout this season.
Jaden?
I don't know. I feel like Dame has been putting on a show throughout like his entire career. Now with CJ McCollum not being there, not having a lot of guys. I mean, even Nurkic has even stepped up this year. I mean, he's been playing great. I think he's averaging 11 rebounds. Personally, I think Damian Lillard can be the MVP because he's just bringing that team that was basically nothing. I mean, it's Dame and two other like role player guys, and to bring them to the playoffs or in a play-in game, I think that he deserves the MVP going throughout the year.
Yeah, Jaden, like you said, the assists might be tough to come by. But I mean, he has a real opportunity to drop 34, 35 points if he just completely commands his offense, which, I mean, he's probably going to have to with no one else there. I mean, you got Anthony Simons, but other than that, I think this is Dame's team. It always has been. But like this year, he decides how good they are. So, I mean, there is a real shot. There's some other guys, though. I mean, like Luka Doncic is already having a year, and he's everyone's pick preseason. You got guys like Giannis Antetokounmpo. So, yeah, like Friedman said, it's going to take a superhuman effort if Dame wants to win that first MVP award. Jock, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you guys. Listen, Damian Lillard is my favorite player in the NBA. I've loved watching him play in Portland. Obviously, I've wanted him out of Portland for the past couple of years because, again, as Matt touched on, their front office has not been very good to Damian Lillard. They've gave him really no help, and they traded away his only help in CJ McCollum last year. I mean, I was looking at the roster. The Portland roster is actually a very young, talented roster. Like, they could be good 3 years down the road. They have good young players. Obviously, they would still need more help in the draft. But as of right now, they really don't have the pieces, in my opinion, to let Damian Lillard win MVP. And I was also looking, Jaden brought up Yusuf Nurkic. Nurkic is having a slept-on year. He's averaging 12 points and 13 rebounds a game, which is pretty impressive for a lower-end big man, in my opinion, than Nurkic. I mean, he's stepping it up a little bit, but again, I just don't think Damian Lillard has all the pieces that he would need to win MVP this year.
Matt?
Yeah, I agree with everything Jock just said. I think just doubling back to Jaden's original point, I just think that it's going to be really tough. The NBA is built, or all professional sports are built on narratives. I just think it's going to be very hard to sell a narrative of if Damian Lillard plays fantastic. I mean, he could be deserving of the MVP award, but you have young guards that are already catching up to him, if not ahead of him. I believe both of these guys are ahead of him. Luka, Ja, both in the West, both look like their team's going to have a better seed than Dame, and they're both off to a better start than Damian is to begin this year. So I just don't know how you could see how you could look at Ja and say, okay, or how you could look at Ja or Luka and say, okay, they don't have any overwhelming superstars with them. They're both on track, or they're both looking like they're going to get a higher seed than the Trailblazers and Damian Lillard. And they're both a bit younger and a bit more exciting. And quite frankly, have been performing better to begin this year. I understand it's a very, very, very small sample size. I just think it's a bit of an overreaction to pick Dame to win the MVP over, these young guys like John Luka, and then these established guys like Jokic, like Embiid, and even like Giannis. Although he is young, he's the most established player in the league.
Yeah, and Jaden, one more question before we move on. I'll throw you one question first, then I'll add on to it. Do you have the Trailblazers making the playoffs this year?
I think they could be one of the lower end teams. I think like even in the play-in, I could see them winning the play-in game and getting into the playoffs. That's probably the most I can see from the Portland Trailblazers.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there because I believe the last player to win MVP and then proceed to not make the playoffs, last and only player, was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in 1976. So that was the only player to ever win MVP that also did not make the playoffs. So I mean, guys, Dame could have an incredible season, but not making the playoffs is going to decrease his chances significantly for that MVP award. So, like Freeman said before, Dame is going to have to put up something incredible this year for the Blazers. So, for me, it's definitely a major overreaction, and for Freeman and Jock, it sounded like the same thing. Real quick, we're going to answer a question we got in the chat. So, guys, some of our thoughts on the slow start in the Eastern Conference for teams like Philly, Brooklyn, and Miami.
Want me to take this one? Yeah, I'll take this one. I don't think it's really anything to worry about. I think that you see all these big Eastern Conference teams. Obviously, Boston just coming off the Eastern Conference win last year, went to the finals, had a great season. They didn't regress at all. I mean, obviously, you could say that throughout the first 4 games of the season that they're having a slow start. But you look at teams in any professional start, teams have slow starts. That's how it is sometimes. But Boston, Philly, and Brooklyn, their rosters are too talented to struggle, period. I mean, you're talking about those are probably 3 of my top 5 teams in the East in the playoffs. I mean, those teams are established, really good teams, and I just don't think there's any concern there for me of how slow these teams are starting. They're too good to just be bad.
Yeah, and guys, this is a long 82 game season. I mean, that's a story for another day on how long the NBA season is. Yeah, these guys are still powerhouses. We're 4 games in. It's not like they're 0-4. So I think there's not too much worry. Frieden, you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep it short and sweet. I mean, the Boston Celtics, they've looked great. 3-0 start. They dropped a tough one in Chicago the other day. I mean, you look at Philly. You go up and down the entire league, and they're top of the league in terms of just raw talent. And I mean, they'll figure it out. That's a given. And then look at Brooklyn. I would say I'm a little bit concerned with them. A 1-2 start is not the end of the world necessarily, but the way that team has been structured, personally, I'm just not a fan of the super team build. It just doesn't seem to work. I think if you build it the correct way, like they did in Miami with the big 3, you had Bosh, you had Wade, you had LeBron, but they all played different roles. It's not like how Brooklyn is right now, where you have 2 elite scorers with Kyrie and Kevin Durant. In Miami with the big 3, the one that we saw that was successful, you had Chris Bosh, great rebounder, and he was your very sound power forward. And then KD and LeBron ran the show. But you also had Ray Allen, who was a knockdown shooter. That's another great asset to have. So I just don't see Brooklyn as being built top to bottom like one of those super sound teams. I'm a little bit worried, but I still believe they'll be a top 5 seed in the East, and they don't have much to worry about for the time being.
Yeah, and it was kind of the same thing in Golden State too, right? I mean, Curry was your LeBron. He's always going to give you the 27, 28 points per game. You can call Clay the Ray Allen over there. Clay might be a little bit better since he was in his prime, and Ray was near the end of his career. Like Iguodala is your veteran. Draymond Green is DPOY and is going to get in the head of the other team with all the technical fouls he gets. So I think that's why, like you said, with all the roles you have, that's why it works. But Kyrie and KD, those are 2 elite scorers that should be the number 1 guy on different teams. But you put them on the same team, and I guess we'll see what happens. Jaden.
Yeah, I believe for the Eastern Conference, there's no worry at all. I mean, we're getting a tasteful of the season going on, a big 82 game season, and there's no point in worrying. I mean, last year, obviously, I'm a Suns fan. I know the Suns were undefeated for a pretty long time, and then obviously it didn't go as planned in the playoffs, but there's a whole season to be played. There's no point in worrying. Obviously, we've seen the Celtics; they've been playing pretty good. The Bucks are amazing as always. I mean, Giannis is just tearing apart. Charlotte's been pretty well. I mean, honestly, there's no point in worrying for the Eastern Conference because I know that they can get better, and I know that the record doesn't show how good they actually are.
Yeah, guys, the Eastern Conference for the past decade has always been kind of the lower conference in the NBA. But I mean, like we said before, we're 4 games into an 82 game season. I'm sure things will work out. And if when they start to maybe seem like, hey, maybe they won't work out, we'll be right here with an episode to talk about that. I hope that answered your question. But with that, we're going to move on to our next overreaction of week 1. So, Matt, what do you have for us?
Yeah, I just cannot stand the lackluster for Lakers front office. There's just it just disgusts me. I don't understand how you could have possibly the greatest player of all time. That's a debate for another day. But LeBron James, I understand it's in the back end of his years, but he's still a top 5. I'll say top 10 because there's nobody who could debate against that player in the league with Anthony Davis. Just let's go all the way back to the beginning before you had LeBron. You had guys like D'Angelo Russell, Kyle Kuzma, Jordan Clarkson, Brandon Ingram, Julius Randle. These are all very solid players, some of them stars at other destinations now. They had such a solid young core, and they sold it for what? A COVID year ring that most people call a Mickey Mouse ring. I would call it a Mickey Mouse ring personally. And now, after that Mickey Mouse ring, they missed the playoffs last year, and they're off to a horrific start again this year. I don't know who told the Lakers front office that it would be a good idea to surround LeBron and Anthony Davis with absolutely zero shooting. This is the worst job I've seen by a front office in ever in sports. I can't even believe that this man still has his job. I just don't understand it.
I mean, Freeman, like, wouldn't you say it's worth it though to give up 6 or 7 years of knowing you're not going to be good just to get that ring? Like, isn't that the point for NBA teams?
Oh, I wouldn't say that 6 or 7 years of knowing that you're not going to be good. You look at Brandon Ingram right now; he's a budding star in New Orleans. Julius Randle is a very solid player in New York, and then Jordan Clarkson's doing it for sure with the Utah Jazz. I just you could have had either you could have had a very solid future, and you could have had those guys around LeBron James like that. That is doable. I don't understand the need to get Russell Westbrook. I think hindsight is always 2020, but it's clear to see that just is not working and did not work last year. But how do you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and yet you surround them with no shooting and no other help whatsoever? It's just an embarrassment. I don't know how you could have this much talent on a roster, this much experience on a roster, and just be so bad. We're not talking about a team that underperforms in the playoffs where, okay, they make it to the Western Conference Finals and choke. Okay, they're not even making the play-in. It's embarrassing. I don't know how you could possibly defend this Lakers front office after the abysmal year last year and then again another terrible start to this year.
So Matt, I'm guessing you're not a massive fan of Russell Westbrook then.
I would say that I'm definitely not one of the Russell Westbrook haters. I just believe it's an awful fit. That's the worst possible fit to put Russell Westbrook, a guy who's declining in his career. He still could be solid in the right role, but it's just the worst possible role to pair him with Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Those are three players on your court. He's taking up $40 million a year. That'll absolutely kill your future of your organization. But his poor decision-making down the stretch, his lack of ability to shoot, I could go on and on. I just don't understand why he was the right fit for this Lakers team. He clearly wasn't, but I just don't know what was going through our heads when we picked Russell Westbrook to be the guy to put alongside Anthony Davis and LeBron James.
Yeah, I think they were searching for that playmaker. You know, I mean, Russell's putting up like even in Washington, like 12, 13 assists. But then again, he was always the guy that would hunt for the triple-double, and now maybe he's trying too hard. So, I mean, the miss the playoffs part for me, I can completely see. Worst front office in the NBA, though. I mean, to me, I think immediately to teams like the Sacramento Kings, and that's kind of where I get a little like messed up. Jock, I mean, you're shaking your head. You got something to add?
Yeah, I just don't like the example you gave. The Sacramento Kings. You're talking about it again. You're talking about. I'm not saying that their front office is good. They're definitely not worse than the Lakers.
They traded away the superstar Tyrese Halliburton. The guy that's your guy.
They still have a good future. They have a good future ahead of them. I'm just saying that their front office. It's not good. I'm not saying that the front office is good. You're
telling me that you believe that the Kings front office has done a better job than the Lakers front office.
Yes, 100%.
I agree with you.
Oh, okay.
To say that the Kings have a good front office,
they don't. I didn't say that. I'm just saying that Ben's example of trying to use the Kings are a worse front office than the Lakers to me is not a good example.
The last time they made the playoffs was 2006.
Okay, I get that. They made some dumb decisions, but at this point,
that's the front office. That's all I'm saying.
I agree. I agree with that example. But my talking about the front office is not necessarily dating back 2006. I'm talking about in the recent years, in the things that are strictly front office based. You have to understand, Los Angeles, the Lakers, this is the biggest basketball brand in the entire NBA. That's the type. Like, you look at schools in college football, like Ohio State, like Alabama. Those schools recruit themselves. No matter who you are as a football player, you grow up, you dream of going to one of those schools. It's the same thing. A lot of guys grow up and dream of playing for the Lakers. You're talking Magic, you're talking Kobe, you're talking Kareem. The Lakers recruit themselves. LeBron James wanted to go into that spotlight. That was no magic done by the front office of the Lakers. LeBron went where he wanted to go. So landing LeBron wasn't really a front office move. They dumped all of their young pieces away to try to surround LeBron James with some talent, with some help. It blew up right in their faces. These guys that are trading away are becoming stars, but they got one Mickey Mouse ring because of it, and they're going to have to blow up their entire franchise in 2 years when LeBron James leaves town.
Yeah, Freeman, Jaden, I know you got some thoughts, but for me, it's just tough to call a team that just won a ring a few years ago the worst front office in the NBA. That's gonna be my final take on it, Jaden.
Friedman, I gotta agree with you. I think they are the worst front office in the NBA. I mean, they brought in Patrick Beverly and they thought something was gonna happen, and they're honestly horrible. It's embarrassing. I mean, for the Los Angeles Lakers as a whole, I mean, you're in a big spotlight in Los Angeles, and you're just terrible. That's brutally embarrassing. I mean, you have a star of the century, not the century. You have a star of this generation with LeBron James on your team, and you're playing brutal. I mean, that's horrendous. You have Anthony Davis and LeBron James. You haven't gotten anyone like around him. I mean, you got Russell Westbrook, who is like declining already, and then you brought in Patrick Beverly, who just like, I feel like he's just going to cause problems eventually throughout the season. They're not making the playoffs. I don't see them making the playoffs in a few years, honestly. If I'm LeBron James, I need to get out. I need to get out of Los Angeles because I know he is not getting a ring in Los Angeles. So for me, they're probably one of the worst front offices in the NBA. And LeBron James, you need to leave. You need to leave, please.
Not getting any more rings, right, Jaden? Not getting any more rings.
No, I think he can still get a ring.
The Mickey Mouse ring, though, I like that we played.
The Mickey Mouse ring, we shouldn't even count, though, to be honest.
Are we making that so that none of that matters now?
I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm just talking about, if you look at the past 2 years, they dumped all their chips away for a Mickey Mouse ring. Okay, but they are going into a downward spiral that we've seen teams like the Knicks be in for years. We've seen like the 76ers. They obviously have turned it around. They've been back to winning ways. But for about 10 years, they were an atrocious organization. The Lakers were really in a tough spot until LeBron James came along. They did a very good job drafting. They just gave all their guys away, which is okay. But if you're going to go all in, you land LeBron. And you don't land LeBron by you doing any magic. You didn't trade anybody. He wanted to come play in the spotlight of Los Angeles. So you land LeBron. This is your opportunity to go out and win rings. And the way that they've gone about it has been embarrassing. They got that one Mickey Mouse ring. Okay, if you want to call it a ring, it's a ring. But look at last year. To not make the play-in, that is inexcusable for the front office. Inexcusable. You have LeBron James, Anthony Davis. I don't know why anybody thought Russell Westbrook would be a help on that team. But who have we brought in as the reinforcements? Patrick Beverly? I mean, he's solid. He's a good role player. I'm with that. But I just don't understand how that was the big move to help propel the Lakers to the playoffs or to an NBA Finals.
Guys, I want to throw something out there real quick, directed to either Matt, Jaden, Jock, whoever. We're talking about the Mickey ring, the Mickey Mouse ring. I don't want the NFL to bleed into this at all, but just a little bit. Does the Rams win of the Super Bowl last year not count? Does that Super Bowl count?
I would say the Rams are probably a bad comparison. I would go.
Why?
I understand.
That's a bad comparison.
They put all their chips into 1 year and they won a ring, and now they're going to be terrible for a very long time. Is that not the Los Angeles Lakers?
They didn't play in a bubble. They didn't play in a season that was.
I don't understand what the bubble has to like. How does that affect?
the bubble has to do with the Mickey Mouse ring.
It was a complete different dynamic from the normal from the normal NBA playoff experience. You don't get the atmospheres of going to the
Yeah,
other
most definitely.
So because the Lakers adapted better than any other team in a different dynamic, now they're getting penalized for that. I don't understand that.
They're not getting penalized necessarily. It's just
You
embarrassing.
said it doesn't count. You said it doesn't count. I don't know what you're going at.
Okay. I'll give you the ring. Okay, they won a ring. They went all in for one year. But
that's my argument for the front office.
Okay, but football is a completely different animal than basketball. Football, you got 22 positions to fill, not including special teams. Basketball, you got a 13-man roster. You got 5 guys that are on the court for the majority of the time. The fact that you have by default one of the best players of all time and still an elite player, and then Anthony Davis, who's also an elite player, how do you not find a way to give them some help? You clearly have the salary cap to do it. You took on $40 million a year from Russell Westbrook. That was the worst possible fit. So, okay, you won the ring, but it's a completely different dynamic from the Lakers to the Rams. And I don't see how you can call this front office good.
Yeah, for me, I think I was going more abstract. Like they put all their chips into the one basket for the ring. That's what the Lakers did. Rams have no future, but I mean, I get what you're saying. The Lakers, the Lakers have Anthony Davis and LeBron James. So I'll agree with you. In very recent memory, this front office has been abysmal. But for me, I'm taking that overreaction for the past few years, like the general front office. So that's where I'm getting my argument from. Jock, I'll let you pitch in.
Yes. So, straight up, I'm gonna agree with Matt right away. I was not high on the Lakers to begin the season. When they brought in Patrick Beverley, I kind of knew things weren't going to end well for them. You're bringing also, we forget that Patrick Beverley and Russell Westbrook are also not very compatible together, and they've had some rough history, the two of them. And that these two guys, they're chippy. They go at it all the time. I don't think that was a good move by the Lakers front office to maybe try and get some production. But the one thing I really want to touch on here is I could be missing something. I don't like it when people call Anthony Davis a superstar. Me personally, I think he's the most overrated player in the NBA.
Whoa!
Unless I'm missing something in Anthony Davis' game, he doesn't shoot efficiently. I just don't see how this guy is a key contributor in any time at the moment. When he was in New Orleans, I understand why the Lakers traded for him in New Orleans. Don't get me wrong. When he was in New Orleans, he was a good player. I could see why the Lakers would be like, okay, this is a guy we can bring over that's going to give us good production for the next 5 years. I get that. But at this point in his career, I just don't see it. Like, I just don't see why people call him a superstar and why. You guys can try and debate with me on this, but I just don't see him.
Matt, it's all you.
Thank you. Anthony Davis is a guy who's averaged, at his worst in the past 4 years, at his worst, he averaged 21 points a game. He's got 2 blocks a game. He's got 10 rebounds a game. How is that not a superstar? This is while playing alongside of LeBron James, who I'm not calling him a cancer, but he does take up a lot of the basketball. So to be able to thrive like that with another big, like small forward type player with the ball in his hands the majority of the time, that is 100%. Okay, superstar. That's a conversation for another day. I agree with you. He's not a superstar.
Yeah,
we're talking about a top 20 player in the league without a doubt.
I would go top 25.
I mean, you're nitpicking at this point because Anthony Davis is a bona fide star in the NBA, and LeBron James is LeBron James. They have done an abysmal job. I can't hammer that home enough. But I'm gonna have to come at you and Jaden. What's wrong with Patrick Beverley? I mean, he's not necessary. No one was expecting him to be the savior. He's leading the league in steals per game. I don't understand why. If the Lakers thought bringing in Patrick Beverley was gonna take him to the promised land, like, okay, that's really not a smart idea.
It's that Timberwolves effect.
Okay.
I just don't understand. Patrick Beverley is one of the best role players that you could get for a cheap price.
Okay, can I just say something real quick and then
yeah,
I'm done here? So, just going back to Anthony, I'll touch on Patrick Beverley right away, but I want to agree with you. I just think Anthony Davis is overrated for what he is. I'm not saying he's bad. I just think he's overrated for what it is. And I'm just
what is he to you?
Yeah,
like,
I don't know
people call him a superstar, top 15 player in the league.
All right, don't go people. No one here is calling him a superstar. I call him a
All
top
right, so
20
then I would
player
agree with
in
you
the
guys.
league.
But I'm just saying from people I hate when people overrate him. I'm just gonna leave that at that. But
So
let's
what
go
would
back
you
to
call him? What would you call him?
I would call him like the most upper tier. I can't say role player. He is
Bruh.
No.
Oh,
Bro,
he's
Jock.
a star.
No,
Whoa.
no,
He's a
Jock.
low
Jock.
end
No,
star.
no, Jock. You're the
Low
same
end.
person. Jock, you're the same person who just said that Jalen Brunson is a superstar for the Knicks. You cannot
I
be
never said
talking.
that.
Yes,
I
you did.
never said that.
Last podcast, you legit said
I-
Jalen Brunson is going to be a star
Did I
in
say
New
he was a
York.
role player? No, I
We
said I
can't- we
wanted
can't
to
get
say
into
that,
the
but
he
he's
said,
not.
You
So
just
I'm
said
not a
sorry.
role
Jalen
player.
Brunson
He's
is
a
going to be a
low-end
star
star.
in New
He's a
York. What are you
low-end star.
saying?
Who is a low end star?
Anthony Davis, low
Jock,
end.
so are we calling him a top 30 player then? Is that what that is?
He's top 25.
So is Tyrese Halliburton a star?
Not right now.
Is Jalen Brunson a star?
No.
Because you just said that last week.
No, I don't.
We can't get into Giacomo's definition of a star.
Now,
We're not
if we
getting
try to unpack
So-
every single Jock
Okay.
thought, we'd be here for 5 hours. So
Yeah. So let's move on.
So, let's just go back to Pat Bev and where we are.
sure.
I agree with Matt. Pat Bev is
Whoa,
a role player.
whoa! No, you don't. You just disagree with me.
Whoa,
You just
whoa,
told me
I'm
you
getting
were
to my point.
laughing at Patrick Beverly.
Can I get to my point, please? Can I get to my point,
But you
please?
don't. All right, don't
Let
say
let
So-
let Jock explain his Pat
Okay,
Bev take.
So I agree with you that the fact that Patrick Beverly is a good role player off the bench, I get that. But there's so many reasons why that move was wrong at this time. First of all, you're bringing him in to play with Russell Westbrook, which again I already touched on. Those two don't click very well. But also, if you're gonna look at the Lakers offseason, their big signing was Patrick Beverly. I mean, who really doesn't even do that much for his team like before in Minnesota. Again, he's a role player, and again, we've seen Russell doesn't fit the system. Fit this Lakers system.
All right, I'm really quick. Patrick Beverly, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated. In my opinion, he's a Draymond Green at a way cheaper price. He's a guy. He's a winner. I would say he's a guy who will contribute to a winning team.
Yeah.
But you understand, Russell Westbrook gets paid around $40 million a year.
And he gets paid dirt cheap.
Gets paid around the same. And Anthony Davis gets paid upwards of $25 million a year. What big signing do you want him to bring in? Like, you know,
They got to get something after not making the
what is
play.
something though? What is? I agree, but there's something fundamentally wrong with the roster now. But the move would have been trading Russell Westbrook. You can't go with free agency and point and say, oh, well, their best acquisition was Patrick Beverly. They had no cap room to get anyone else other than a guy like Patrick Beverly. So unless they dumped Russell Westbrook, which isn't the reality, there's no one else they could have gotten other than Patrick Beverly or a Patrick Beverly caliber player.
All right, Jaden, I saw your hand up, so I'm gonna feel like Mr. Herring here and throw it to you next.
Yeah. To be honest with you, Friedman, I can honestly agree with you. I think Patrick Beverly, he's just a dog, to be honest. I mean, he's doing like all the dirty work. He's gonna be
Whole lot of fake love.
Great basketball
A lot of fake love for Patrick Beverly.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring a baseball term into it, but he's a dog. Like, if you know what dog means, he's a dog. Like, he's going he's playing great on defense. I mean, he can get rebounds. He gets
Rebounds,
steals. Honestly, I think he's a good player, and for the price that they got him was great. But as the Lakers being such a in Los Angeles with being such like a great basketball town, basketball city, they just needed to bring someone like way better than Patrick Beverly in to at least help LeBron and AD. I think they needed someone like someone who can come in and average at least like more than probably like 10, 15 points per game, but also bring in a rebound and some assists to the stat line.
Yeah, and something interesting. I remember the Lakers were looking at a guy like Zach LaVine, who was exactly who you just described when the Russell Westbrook rumors were going on. It was Russ, Zach LaVine, some other guys. I know Buddy Hield was in there. So, I mean, Buddy Hield and Zach LaVine are looking like a lot better options right now for the Lakers. Real quick, we're going to get to some of the comments we are getting down there in the chat. So first off, we'll start off the predictions for LaMelo when he returns from injury. Guys, anyone have a take on this? Yeah, Jaden.
Yeah, personally, I love LaMelo. I think he can come back from the injury. I think he's going to be a player that changes the game throughout today. He's going to be throughout the next generation, probably someone like I could see him being like a Steph Curry. I mean, he could shoot from just about anywhere. He's a good passer. I mean, I think he's great, and I think he can come back from this injury and help the Charlotte, especially in hard Eastern Conference. I think he can help completely.
Sure. And then the another comment we got here, we kind of hit on it a little bit. So how much do the Lakers hold on to Westbrook and Matt? I feel like, oh no, yeah, we'll go Jock.
Oh,
How much longer do they hold on?
I mean, who knows with this Laker front office? If I was the Lakers, I'd dump him after this year. I mean, well, at what point is he bringing value to your team? I get like he is averaging, I think, around 15 points a game we said or something like that. But again, he's just been detrimental to your team. I mean, I would try and get something out of him while he's actually maybe worth a little bit. But like, I would hold on to him for maybe the rest of this year, and then I think I'd part ways with him.
Yeah, and the last comment we'll get to before we continue with the overreactions, I had it on the screen before. Mr. Hunter said the Lakers traded for Anthony Davis to be a dominant star while LeBron started regressing in his last few years, but AD just did not show up. So Friedman, Jaden, Jock, any thoughts?
I mean, Anthony Davis, I don't. Yeah, he was traded for it to be a dominant star, but we're not looking at a collapse similar to Russell Westbrook like that. I don't know what you were expecting of him because he was regressing, but clearly the Lakers were not expecting this type of play. Anthony Davis, he hasn't lived up to his extraordinarily high expectations. People were calling him a top 5 player in the league a couple of years ago. Obviously, he's not that player now, but he's still a very, 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 very good player. I mean, I was just saying before, he's a top 20 player in the league, in my opinion. So I don't think Anthony Davis is the problem. I don't think LeBron James is the problem. It's like I said before, it's just the poor front office job and surrounding these guys with no shooters, with no outside talent, and it leads to a team that misses the playoffs and is off to another horrific start again this year.
Yeah, I think when Anthony Davis plays, like maybe he doesn't look like exactly what they expected, but it's not like he's playing horrendously. Like he took a drop off like Russell Westbrook. I mean, he averaged 23 points, 10 rebounds last year with 3 assists, a couple blocks as well. But then again, that was in 40 total games. So I think that's the main problem the Lakers are missing out on. They're missing out on AD in the majority of the games. But when he does play, he makes that impact. But they're just missing that impact in the widespread of games. We're going to move on to the other overreactions. So, Jock, we'll head to you next. What is the overreaction we have after week 1 of the NBA season?
All right, so I know I'm going to get a little bit of hate for this one, but I got to stand true to what I have seen so far. I think that the Sacramento Kings are a playoff team this year. So we have to remember that a playoff team is a team that could make the play-in and then win their play-in game and make the playoffs. And that's exactly what I think the Sacramento Kings are going to do this year. We've talked about how bad this team has been for years. And I feel like, obviously, the trade with Tyrese Halliburton and they've made some questionable draft choices. I agree with. They really have not been the greatest front office, and I get that. But as of right now, you look at the pieces that they have, and they have potential to be good. You look at De'Aaron Fox. You look at their trade for Domantas Sabonis, which was a great trade for them. Obviously, not giving up Tyrese Halliburton was not ideal, but Domantas Sabonis is what they needed at the time. They just drafted Keegan Murray, who could potentially be Rookie of the Year. And, I mean, and Kevin Huerter. Oh, no, sorry, not Kevin Huerter. I'm thinking of a different team. I'm just going to stop there. But they have good pieces where I was looking at teams in the Western Conference. I have them as a 10 seed. And from what they've shown, obviously they're 1-3 at the moment. From what they've shown, they're a gritty team and that they can win games. I'm not expecting them to win a playoff series. I'm just saying that I think that they will make the play-in, and I think that they could win their play-in game and make the playoffs.
And guys, I would just to put out right now in the chat, if you guys have any reactions, I'm sure some of you do to Jock's take right there. But starting off, I'll hit some of the guys we have here. Friedman, I'll let you start off with what Jock just said.
Thank you. This is unbelievable. Like I can't even get into it.
All right,
there is an absolute huge lack of talent between
what?
Sacramento Kings. All right, okay, we're gonna do this again. You want to do it again? We'll do it again.
Okay.
Who has more talent? Warriors.
Okay, I'll look at my Western.
No. No.
We're asking the questions here.
Did I not say that there would be a 9 or 10 seed in the Western Conference?
Okay,
We're naming 10 teams better than them.
So there are
You
10
can name
seed.
9. You can name
Let's
9.
start from the back end,
All right,
Freeman. so we can
I'll
work
make
our
this
way up.
nice
Alright,
and easy.
so-
I'll make this
so-
nice and easy for everyone. I'll read
No.
you 9.
We want to ask you.
Warriors, Clippers, Nuggets, Grizzlies, T-Wolves, Pelicans, Mavericks, Suns, Blazers. Boom, there's 9 right there.
That's the 9 teams, and that's the exact 9 teams I have.
Oh, well, good. But I'm telling you, there's no way that they run the table and win 5-6 games in a row against those lower end teams.
Play-in
like
is
the
one
Nuggets.
game. The play-in is one game.
Block. Bro, what? If you're the 10.
The play-in is 2 games. You play 2 games. You win the first one, and then you move on, and then you win the second one, and you get in the playoffs.
That's just utterly not true at all. You have to go through a gauntlet. The 10 plays the 9.
Is that not what the play-in schedule is?
No.
Did they change that then?
I think
I
is
don't
Jock
believe
not
it.
right here? I'm not
Is-
gonna.
yeah,
I
am I tripping, or
severely
is-
disagree with the
is
tape.
the
but I think
play-in
Jock
not
is right.
one game?
From what I have remembered, the 10 plays the 9. I believe the 10 is still
The 10 plays the 9, and then the 10 plays the 9. So it's the 7-8 play. The winner moves on automatically. The loser of that plays the winner of the 10-9.
10 and
and
9.
that
the
winner moves
10-9
into
the 10-9 has to win 2 against the loser of the 7-8 game.
Yeah, they have to win
Yeah,
2
they have
games.
to win
There's
two.
So,
2
okay,
games
so you're
they have to win.
but they have to. Okay, so you're telling me that the Sacramento Kings are gonna beat
Could.
the 9 seed,
They could.
and then they'll win 2 games against the 8 or 7 seed, the loser of that game. They'll win
It's
back to back.
One game against, if they're the 10 seed, it's one game against the 9 seed, and then one game against the loser of the 7-8 seed.
No,
Yeah.
it's 2. It's 2.
It's one.
2.
It's one. It's one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's one for. We got some comments that are. Yeah, Jock is right, guys.
All right, well then that's on me. But I want to.
Okay,
I
well, I'm
don't
just
want
saying
my
that
I don't
again.
want my blunder to like let us forget this just awful.
13 is a.
It's awful. It's awful.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that comment in a
the
little
front
bit.
office doesn't want to win. You say it was a good trade to give up Tyrese Halliburton to get Demontis Sabonis because that's what they needed.
It's what they
the
needed
time.
at the time. Was a big.
Well, what
man.
do they need at the time? They need Demontis Sabonis to be a guy.
Demontis Sabonis
right
is
now.
good.
They have
Demontis
to-
Sabonis
He's
is an
a
all-star.
all-star
He's
player,
still
Look
an
me in the
all-star
face.
here.
Look me in the face and tell me the Kings have a greater than 0.1% chance to win the NBA Finals.
They don't.
They don't. So then why are you trying to dump future superstars off to go get Demontis Sabonis, who's going to give you a cool 18 and 10 any given night?
He's
What
a
does
very
that do
win now
for you?
player.
What is that? He's not a win now
I mean,
player.
I get that. That again, like, was it the greatest move in the world? No, but it was.
You're right. It was just the worst. It was awful.
It's
It was
not awful. It's not awful. I don't like that they gave it to Tyrese Halliburton. I'm so high on him, but they
But
got.
you
Sabonis,
can't
who
be
was
singing
an all-star
Halliburton's
last year.
praises, though. You can't be singing Halliburton's praises and then compliment the team that gave him up for an old Demontis Sabonis, a
He's
team that's not in
old.
win now mode
He's not
either.
20s.
What? Okay, Tyrese Halliburton is in his very low 20s.
Yeah.
Why would
and
you give
Demontis
him
Sabonis
up?
is in his older 20s. I get that. He's a more established player. Demontis Sabonis was
Why
an
would you need
all-star
an
last year.
established
And-
player on a team that's in rebuilding mode?
The
No one
Kings-
needs that. That's not what they needed right now. They want to lose games. They have no championship aspirations. If you ask the Kings front office, if you ask a Kings fan, would they rather be the 15 seed in the West or make the playoffs and see what happens? Every single one will say they want to be the 15 seed in the West because they know it's a better chance to jumpstart their organization instead of losing 4 games to the Warriors and just be laughed at.
I get that. But so I'm just gonna say that if you look at this Western Conference competition, do we not just say that the Lakers are gonna make the playoffs? Are not gonna make the playoffs? Do we not all agree on that? That they won't make the playoffs?
I mean, yeah, I guess, but what?
So,
what do you-
and I'm just saying that I'm just saying that they will be the 10 seed this year. And I think with the way that their brand of basketball that this team is playing, especially if Keegan Murray grows and just prospers throughout this season, which is very possible. Did you not pick him to win Rookie of the Year this year? Did you not?
Rookie of the Year is not franchise-changing superstar.
Okay, I never said that. But does that not mean he's going to be a good player by the end of the season?
Good player, sure, but you're going
They
to tell
have
me.
their franchise player. They
You're
have
going to
their
tell me. So let's
De'Aaron
just look at
Fox.
let's look at the back end of the Western Conference that we think. Obviously, it's not set in stone. The back end's probably the Blazers, and the back end is probably Suns, Pelicans, depending on Zion's injury, does not look too serious. But definitely the Blazers. You're going to tell me you are taking Domantas Sabonis and company against Damian
More like
Lillard
De'Aaron
himself
Fox and
in
company.
a winner-take-all game.
Company.
Win or go home. You are going to doubt Damian Lillard and ride with Domantas Sabonis and Keegan Murray, the duo of the century. That's just
basketball. It's one game. The play-in is one game.
Okay, and you are talking about the point guard that is the best in those moments that they will be going up against, more than likely.
All I'm going to say is
they have to win 2 games against teams that
the
they
Kings are also a very good defensive team. I have no doubt in my mind that they can lock down Damian Lillard for one game and hold him to not that good.
Down Damian Lillard. You know how many teams have said that? Not to mention they're 0-3 to start the year. There's like no
1-3. 1-3. Got their first one.
There's no reason for excitement with this team. There's none. They're 1-3. They look like a team that's going to miss the playoffs.
I'm not saying that they've championship aspirations. I'm just saying that they're going to make the play-in and could go into the playoffs.
You got to win more games to make the play-in, and then you got to win 2 games in a row against top-tier competition or semi-top-tier competition to make the play-in. I just how could you I get it. Like Cinderella stories happen, but you cannot give me a logical reason why the Sacramento Kings, with very, very, very little experience in these moments, are going to beat they lack. All right, so let's just say against the Trailblazers, because that would be my pick to be like the 10-9 game. The Blazers have more experience. The Kings have nobody who's ever been in the playoffs.
Who has experience other than Damian Lillard and Nurkic on that team?
Who has experience on the Kings on the entire roster?
Domantas Sabonis.
He has really big game experience.
He's had playoff experience.
He's had big game experience. Okay, Damian Lillard is probably the most tested player in those positions in the entire NBA.
I disagree with that. But
so who has more? So tell me who has more experience in these moments, the Kings or the Blazers?
Blazers. But
so you got to understand, in these big moments, the best player generally shines. The best player on the court generally shines for each team. Who is the best player on the court in that game? Whoa. You're thinking about this right now?
It's Damian Lillard.
I know it is. So you have Dame. Who has a better like roster up and down? I mean, you saw Anthony Simons.
A better roster?
But
the Kings.
Oh,
roster? Right. You want to go roster by roster?
Freeman, I'm gonna jump in real quick before you go on forever, just tearing Jock apart. Jock, are we forgetting that the Blazers have Jeremy Grant, Gary Payton Jr., and Josh Hart as well this year? They added all those pieces.
Okay, all right. Jeremy Grant's good. That's fine. Who are the other two you listed?
If you want to talk about playoff experience, is Gary Payton Jr.
Gary Payton's a ring in his finger.
Oh, give me a second. I'm sorry, my Wi-Fi is like really, really slow right now.
Nah, it's not the Wi-Fi.
Doc, I think it's the thought process, man.
We've heard you all day, Glock.
All right, so you want to talk about playoff experience
you just
on
said
the
you couldn't
Kings?
hear the question.
What's up?
You just said you didn't hear the question, but now you're about to answer it.
We're good. Let's go.
He was just listing. Was he not just listing people who are playoff experience on the Trailblazers?
Yes.
So you want to look at playoff experience on the Kings. He's old. We got Harrison Barnes on the bench. He comes off. He's like their 7th or 8th guy off the bench. Okay. Good playoff experience there. I also forgot they have guys. Matthew Dellavedova also has playoff experience with LeBron James. And then also,
I mean,
we're talking about guys who are averaging a minute per game.
One guy that we forgot about that they also have is Davion Mitchell.
Oh yeah, I didn't forget about him. He's awful.
We're talking about playoff experience. Well, I mean,
Jock, we're talking about guys who are averaging a minute per game right now.
Or a second-year player. How can you bring up experience and not bring up a second-year player?
I mean, he was in the Final Four.
I'm just saying he's good, and he just adds to their scoring.
He's good.
He adds to their overall.
He's good at Baylor. He's not good in the NBA. He was awful last year.
Not yet, at least. I like him for the future. He's a great defender, but not yet.
What's he gonna do? All right. The hypotheticals, they would need so many things to go their way to beat first of all get the 10 seed. Second of all, to beat Damian Lillard's Trailblazers, and then they got to win another game. Who is that going to be? Is that going to be the Suns? Can they beat the Suns? No. Can they beat the Pelicans? No. Can they beat the Mavericks?
There's iffy. There's iffy
Pelicans?
situations.
You're right.
In
No,
New
no,
Orleans.
no. You're right. You're right. You're right. If Chris Paul is driving the team bus and they crash and everyone is just unable to play,
I said
and
Pelicans.
they
Not
bring
Suns.
in
Pelicans.
okay. So if Zion Williamson eats all the food at the team table and every other player starves, and they have to bring in the youth group of New Orleans to play, yeah, they got a shot. But you cannot tell me that Brandon Ingram, that CJ McCollum, that Zion Williamson will not pack the Kings by 30 in a big time game.
All I'm saying is that don't be surprised if they upset. That's all I'm just gonna leave it at that. Don't be
I
surprised if they
will
upset.
do whatever you like.
All right.
If they make the playoffs, I'll do whatever you like.
Sounds good.
All right. I think that'll just about do it for Jock's take. Only took what was that, 30 seconds just about? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll move on. we'll move on to our final overreaction of the opening week. It is my overreaction. It's a tough one, so let me get it out there, and then you can shoot every shot you have at me. James Harden will be a better player
Oh,
than
God.
Joel Embiid.
Oh my god.
All right.
I need a break. Someone else.
I need to talk.
All right, let me go.
I need to talk. I need to talk.
Let me get it out. James Harden
we
has
can
had
read,
an
we can read.
incredible. Hey, James Harden has had an incredible start to the season. 35, 31, 29, 11 assists, 12 assists, 9 assists, 9 rebounds, 9 rebounds, 8 rebounds, 8 rebounds. That is unreal. That is better than Joel Embiid so far. And also, I want to take a trip to the past real quick. I know it's not great for what's happening this season. James Harden is, in my books, one of the most underrated players of our generation. For me, I think he deserves about 2-3 MVPs that he didn't get in his career. I think he was the most valuable player on the Rockets at least 3 times, 3 seasons. And I think we're seeing that James Harden is still very much capable of doing the things he did in Houston, but now in Philadelphia with a great roster around him. He's putting up the assists now. The numbers aren't in the mid-30s, but we see, I mean, he can still put up mid-30s numbers. Embiid will still be a powerhouse. Tyrese Maxey will still be a great rising star. But guys, for me, James Harden will be the best player on the 76ers team this year. Stats-wise, Embiid is going to get his touches. I'm sure his production will produce higher stats, but James Harden is the best player on the 76ers roster right now. Jock.
Okay. So I don't hate the take. I don't hate it. It's not like an overly bad take. It's not. But we have to realize who we're talking about is the guy that you're comparing him to. You're talking about a guy who's top 3 in MVP voting the past 2 years, who put up crazy numbers. He was second last year, I know. Was he second the year before as well?
2 years in a row, yeah.
2 years in a row, top 2 in MVP. Okay. So I think, I mean, again, Jokic, what he does is great. Yeah. You got to look at these numbers Embiid puts up. Embiid throws a monster performance on the court every single game. And coming from me, after James Harden won his MVP in Houston, and then the year after that, I was never a big fan on him. I hated on him a little bit too much. After last year, I kind of looked at him a little bit of a different way, and I'm starting to like his game a little bit more. I like what he brings to the table with the 76ers team. And again, he's definitely a superstar. He's had a monster start to this season, dropping, what would you say was his totals? Like 33 a game, you said he was dropping one game. I mean, he's had a great season. But again, you just have to look at the player Joel Embiid is on the court and how dominant he is for his position and just the stats that he puts up every day in and day out.
I understand that, but also James Harden is coming back into his scoring role in the Sixers offense. Embiid did not have a score those times where he was putting up those insane numbers, and now he does. I'm not saying Embiid's going to get worse. I'm just saying Harden is going to show this year how good of a player he always has been. He adapted in New York or in Brooklyn when he couldn't be that. You don't think he adapted in Brooklyn? He's putting up 12, 13 assists.
Were they not awful when he was in Brooklyn?
He was a different player. I'm with Ben with this one. He was a completely different player. He adapted is exactly what
he knew full well he could not be the scorer he was in Houston, or else it would have gone even worse than it did. So he adapted and started putting up 11, 12, 13 assists. Now he's keeping those assists in Philadelphia, but this season he's coming back into his scoring role. I mean, guys, if we're seeing a 27-point, 12-assist season from James Harden, that's going to be tough to argue against as the best player on his own team.
I mean, Joel Embiid has the same average points per game than Harden, with 4 less average per minutes per game.
Also, can I just jump in real quick and also say that James Harden plays like no defense, and Joel Embiid is also one of the better defensive big men in the league.
I'll
Can we
say
just put that
James
out there?
Harden's defense is underrated, but you also
Yeah.
have to take into account. I disagree with Ben, to be honest with you, but you have to take into account, like, if you're going to bring up defense, okay, James Harden's playmaking is astronomically better than
Joel's. I agree with that, but at the end of the day, what would you rather have more on your team? Would you rather have one of the better?
All right, this isn't like a moral basketball debate. Like, I'm not getting into that, but I just want to I agree with Jock and Jaden by disagreeing with this take. So
Thanks.
in the playoffs last year, in the entire game for both teams, Joel Embiid was the leading rebounder 7 of the 12 games for both teams. He was a leading scorer for both teams 6 of the 12 games. That's more than any other player, obviously. How can you not see this guy as the best player in Philly right now? Or best player in Philly right now. He's back-to-back years. He was second in MVP voting. He's clearly been the best performer in the playoffs in the past year. Maybe to predict that he'll have a season, anyone can just predict that. But right now, to say that James Harden's a better player than Joel Embiid, no.
That's why my prompt says will be a better. By the end of the season, I will be very confident, and I believe there will be a lot more people with me saying James Harden is a better player than Joel Embiid. That's my take.
Okay. Then I guess I overlooked your take a little bit. I may not. I don't know. I don't know, to be honest with you. That one could go either way. I mean, James Harden has been taking the role of being kind of the guy. He has the ball in his hands. The offense only runs when as far as James Harden will take it. But I guess it depends on how James performs in the playoffs and how the regular season stacks up. But I guess it's not such an awful take when you say at the end of the year. That's somewhat understandable.
And guys, if we're talking about overreactions, Jock brought up his defense. I mean, we just want to talk about his first 4 games. He's got 4 steals or 5 steals in 4 games right now, as well as 3 blocks. So defense is not a big question mark, at least this season, for Harden.
He has definitely stepped it up with his defense over the past couple of years. I agree with you, but I'm just saying defensive value, Joel Embiid, it's no question, is a much better defender than James Harden. But again, like Matt touched on, I agree. James Harden's playmaking is much better than anything Joel brings to the table on that side.
I would disagree with arguing about either of those, though, to be honest with you, because Joel Embiid's a center and James Harden is a point guard, shooting guard, whatever you want to put him at with wherever max he's going to be at. But so the positional roles are just different. By default, Joel Embiid is going to put up more staggering defensive numbers because James Harden is not necessarily a lockdown defender. Yeah. But James Harden has to deal with a way taller task of dealing with the point guards every game, while Joel Embiid sits in the paint and sends shots back and grabs rebounds. I'm not saying one is better than another. I'm just saying James Harden's impact isn't seen as much on the stat sheet. Point guard defensive ability in general is just not seen as much on the stat sheet as the big man.
Yeah, well, I am saying one is better than the other, and I'm saying James Harden will be better than Joel Embiid. Jaden.
Yeah. Now that I'm starting to actually think deeper into this, I can actually kind of see Ben's side of it. I'm starting to kind of agree with Ben actually now that I'm thinking about it, because going around the NBA, I mean, it's a guard heavy league. Like I said last week, it's a guard heavy league, and Harden is just putting up numbers. And Joel Embiid, I mean, he's a big man. Obviously, he's just gonna sit in the paint, block shots. But I think Joel can block. He has a rare ability that he could guard even some guards. Honestly, at this point, he's able to guard. He could guard in the perimeter, inside. It doesn't really matter. But for what Chadwick is saying, that James Harden can be better than Joel Embiid, I honestly think by the end of the year, it's a debate we can have closer to the end of the year.
Freeman?
James arguing that Joel Embiid can defend on the perimeter is like me arguing that I can do a backflip right now. I mean, there's no like sample size whatsoever. Joel Embiid just doesn't guard on the perimeter, and I just don't try to do backflips. But I mean, maybe they both could happen. Who really knows? So I just I don't see the I don't see how you can overlook Joel Embiid's back-to-back second-place finishes in the MVP voting. And you say it's a guard-heavy league. I can somewhat agree, but look at the top two finishers in the past two MVP votings: Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid. Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid. Giannis is another guy who's a perennial MVP mention, at least. I believe he was the another finalist last year. None of which were guards. Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis are all clearly not guards. So I can maybe agree it's a guard heavy league, but that shouldn't go into swaying who's the better player.
Jock?
I mean, again, after hearing Ben out, I don't disagree with the take as much, but I feel like we're forgetting how good Joel Embiid is. Can I just read off some of his career numbers here?
Go for it.
Joel Embiid, career-wise, is also a 50% shooter from the field. He shoots 50% from the field. Do we just
7
forget
feet
that
tall?
That's pretty average for a big man. I'm not gonna lie. Like, also to use career numbers, I don't necessarily agree with because we're talking.
You want to go? I'll go this season too.
If we're going career numbers, I could use some very.
I mean, James Harden. James Harden is a
I'll go this season.
Score if we're talking career.
I get you.
Way
we'll
better
go this season.
Joel
Embiid right now is averaging 27 points per game with 4 assists and shooting again 50% from the field. Also has 4 steals in the year already.
Yeah, Harden. I'll touch on that real quick. Harden has more steals. You said they're averaging the same amount.
Harden's a guard. Joel Embiid's a big man.
I understand. Steals are an interesting thing. I feel like steals. Obviously, guards get them a little more often, but steals nowadays are turning into like you're just tipping passes. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like big men are still able to get steals adequately at least. But I mean, Jock, they have the same exact amount of average points per game. Joel obviously has more rebounds. He has about 3 more rebounds. Harden has 6 more assists. Harden has more steals per game, and then Joel has a little bit more blocks per game. So for me, just this season, I have Harden off the bat. I think Joel is still a better stat producer for right now, and he will be for a little while. But at the end, for me, it's going to be Harden. Jaden.
Yeah. Agreeing with Ben kind of again because I mean Harden, he's had great numbers in Houston, obviously. And then, I mean, they said that he was out of shape, I remember, and they were like making fun of him for like, I guess he had like a stomach, like something on his stomach, like throughout. Yeah, when he was in Brooklyn. But obviously, I think we all have social media and we all like see what's going on. They were talking about how like Harden was like going crazy in the offseason trying to get in shape. So I honestly think that he's getting a lot better from what he maybe like he was in Brooklyn, but he's getting a lot better. He's adapting to a situation in the Sixers. And honestly, I think that we have to see that Harden is a guard. He's a shooting guard next to Tyrese Maxey. I mean, they're the ones who are going to primarily have the ball. So how are we can't really say that Joel Embiid is going to be better than Harden because the two main ball carriers in Philly is going to be Tyrese Maxey and James Harden. So I can kind of agree with Ben, your take.
And that is, for me, that's going to be an incredible way to end it. Real quick before the episode does end, I just want to show the progression of reactions to my take by Dwayne Hunter in the comments right here. So I put out the overreaction, completely shocked. How is this even possible? How could someone fathom an overreaction like this? This kid is an idiot. Why is he even on the show? And then, the take isn't that bad. He's had a Hall of Fame career. Last couple of years, been out of shape, like Jaden said. He worked on the offseason. Plus, how Harden plays, he gets Joel the ball a lot more. I mean, that's gonna skyrocket my ego, and I love ending the episode on that because I am sky high right now, Jaden.
Yeah. Before we end the show, I wanna go back to Jock real quick on his Indiana Pacers. No, because like if you have been scrolling through like ESPN a little bit or Twitter, maybe you see like the NBA rumors. There's been rumors that the Lakers have been trying to trade Westbrook for Buddy Hield and a center from Indiana, but the Lakers are refusing to give up the two future first round picks. I want to know what's your thoughts on that, because you're saying that the Indiana Pacers are going to be a sleeper team this year. So how do you feel with I know last week you were just talking about Buddy Hield. You're like, oh, Buddy Hield, Indiana Pacers, Buddy Hield. Now that they're thinking about trading him for Russell Westbrook. How do you feel with that?
Okay. Well, first of all, okay. Pacers sleeper team pick is not looking good for me. I can't lie. I'm not very pleased with how the Pacers have played throughout the first 4 games. Not very pleased. So you said, I have not seen this either. This is news to me that they were looking to trade. You said Westbrook for Buddy Hield and a center. You said?
Yeah.
And what else is Indiana getting back 2 picks, you said?
Yeah, they're trying to get 2 future first round picks, but the Lakers aren't giving them up.
I'm gonna give them up. I mean, if I was the Lakers, I wouldn't want to give them up either. Again, we talked about how bad their front office is, but I mean, I can't see a trade working with that. Buddy Hield is a good role player. Again, he's not a star by any means. He's a good role player. Maybe again, 6-man off the bench. He can give you 10, 15 points. Maybe. I mean, if you're getting 2 first-round picks for him, I'd give him up with Russell Westbrook, and you have to deal with him. I'd do it, but I mean, I just can't see a deal getting done where there's 2. If you're looking at the Pacers, they want picks, and they're in a rebuild mode. I'm disagreeing with my sleeper pick already, but they're in rebuild mode at this point, and they're looking for picks. So yeah, that's
yeah. But I mean, Buddy Hield, I think that he could fit.
Can we cue the clip of him saying that Tyrese Halliburton and Buddy Hield are an
elite backcourt?
Elite.
I didn't say that they were elite, but they're good together. They're good together.
They're good together, like
Halliburton's a star, and Buddy Hield is a good role
player. Buddy Hield's not even starting.
I'm saying when they're on the court together.
Okay.
Who's starting? Well, let me look it up. Is Benedict Mathurin the starting shooting
guard? You
now?
legit just told me that Buddy Hield is gonna be the 6th man for the Indiana Pacers.
Good.
It's gonna be Buddy Hield and Miles Turner.
That's tanking for Victor. Why? That's terrible.
I mean, really, the Pacers have so many unknowns throughout the organization, and
the knowns is that they should be shooting for 20 wins max at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
I agree.
They're in rebuild mode. I don't know what to say.
You just said that they're a sleeper team.
Oh boy.
Yeah, the Pacers are in rebuild mode, just like the Kings have been for the last 15 years. So we're gonna. Those are 2 incredible teams that Jock is defending, but I love.
Kings will defend. Kings will continue.
How about the Knicks?
I will. What, the Knicks? Last time I checked, we're 2-1.
Brunson a star.
Last time I checked, we're 2-1.
We can't get into this.
And our only loss was to 1 point by your team in an overtime win when you guys are favored by at least, I think, 10 points.
I'll say what I've been saying the entire. We got to wrap this up, but I just you got to understand the Knicks were 5-1 to start the year last year. If the Knicks go 5, you're telling me that the Knicks are going to be like a legit team. If they win the next 3 games, they were 5-1 last year. They still did.
I would still need to see more out of them. I'm not jumping to. That's why I wanted to pick like a Knicks overreaction for today, but I don't want to jump on anything with them yet. They need time.
Overreaction. Okay.
Hey, I think that's going to do it. I have much respect for Jock for defending teams like the Pacers and the Kings.
Pacers are wrong. I'm done.
I couldn't do it myself. I'm not that courageous, but Jock is out here defending Indiana and Sacramento. You love to see it. We got a round of applause to end off the episode. Pretty sure it's intended for me. I'll take it as that. But for the whole show, all right? For the whole show, me most importantly, but for the entire show, round of applause. We're going to be right back here next week on Tuesday, same time. But Jane, what do we put on the screen before we head out?
Dame for MVP, bro. I can't. That's my quick prediction, but I
There
really,
might
I
be
really
kids
love,
watching this show. You don't want to poison their brains.
I really like Dame for MVP.
You already had your segment to do all your talking on Dame somehow winning MVP. But guys, if there's not any more thoughts, I think that's going to end it. So for Jaden Hunter, Giacomo Imperiale, Matt Freeman, I'm Ben Chadwick. Thanks for watching.